Is America losing its strategic dominance in the world? Prices keep rising and our quality of life keeps dropping. Our enemies like Russia feel emboldened to invade neighboring countries like Ukraine. China has risen to be a major strategic and economic competitor, and they've made it very open that they do not agree with nor will comply with a lot of American policies. There is a concerted effort by China, Russia, Brazil, South Africa, even India a little bit to push the world to de-dollarization in the BRICS collective. And right now, the amount of dollars in the world's forex reserves is only 58%, when just 10 to 15 years ago it was closer to 70. So is this the end? Have we ever been through anything like this before? Just go back to 1979 under President Jimmy Carter. U.S. forex reserves was dropping at the same rate from 80% just 10 years before to 60.7. Our economy was absolutely under threat by Japan because they were outperforming us in every major manufacturing sector, and it was projected that by the year 2000, 2010, their economy was going to easily eclipse our own. And America's complete and total failure in Vietnam made our military across the world look much less indestructible than they have for the past 30 to 40 years. Failure in Vietnam was catastrophic because it made our military look like it's something that could be easily defeated by people who were just rice farmers, and it also made us look like the much worse guy compared to the USSR. Iran was our number one ally in the Middle East. We relied on them also heavily for oil, and we had a lot of surveillance bases there to monitor what the Soviets were doing, and we lost it. The Iranian Revolution of 1978 may have been just as bad to the United States as Vietnam was. Got to mention the Soviet Union in 1979, after witnessing so many American strategic failures, realized they could invade Afghanistan, and that's exactly what they did. To top all of it off, the United States was suffering its second oil crisis. It was almost as bad as the one in 1973. So yeah, Jimmy Carter at the time was president non grata. He was called upon by many conservatives to be the worst president we've ever had. Carter's biggest failure was that he was a good person, and he wanted to do the right thing. And when you are in charge of the most powerful country in the world, you either do the right thing or you do what it takes to win. You can't do both. In 1979, under this administration, that was supposed to be it. America was supposed to witness itself go into decline and become a less significant power as other economies and militaries just emerged to dominate. And then the 1980s happened with the election of Ronald Reagan. Reagan had no qualms about being a good person or doing the right thing. His goal was just to rip the guts out of the Soviet Union and to take down any power that thought they could challenge America's economic supremacy. Now, Reagan's domestic policy was quite awful, and the US dollar didn't do exceptionally well. Dollar forex reserve status dropped to 53.1, and by 1990 it was in the 40s. He also set us back when it comes to green energy, and he made us even more reliant on oil from the Middle East. Look at this chart of US GDP growth year by year, and you could see that under the last years of the Carter administration, we were dropping into a mini recession, and then once Reagan got elected, we had a nice little jump. And even though we fell back into a recession within 2 years, and we had this nice recovery, that was actually due to the Federal Reserve's policy, especially under Paul Volcker. That's a different story. But tariffs were waged against the Japanese economy, especially in industries that were directly competing with America, and America won. The Soviet Union, which was supposed to be this nearly matchless military behemoth, lost to the United States in the military race. The Reagan administration jumped up military spending in GDP. They increased it by a whole 1 to 1.5%. So that's hundreds of billions of dollars. The Russians could not keep up, and all the money they started putting into the military, which was more than they've ever spent before, could not keep the Russian economy afloat, and they went through one economic problem after another until their economy melted down. When it comes to Iran, in 1988, one of their vessels was bold enough to fire upon another American ship, and within one afternoon, we launched Operation Praying Mantis, where we sunk half of their naval fleet. They surrendered. So by 1979, the jackals and the bottom feeders thought we were weak, and they thought they could take what they wanted. Yet by the end of the 1980s, they were all running scares. Some of them had governments that ceased to exist. But today, we are not limited or bogged down by anything that was holding us back in 1979. The U.S. being beholden to the oil of the Middle East for their own economy to run was a huge limitation. We don't have that anymore. We are the world's largest oil producer. Russia has lost over 825,000 troops in their war in Ukraine. It's taken them over 2 years, and they're still nowhere near close to winning. China is going through an economic deflationary spiral that they just can't seem to get out of no matter how hard they're trying, along with a mini population collapse that's going to decimate a lot of their economy in the next 10 to 20 years. Iran's most powerful proxies have been almost completely defanged, and even this country has suffered attacks from within that they haven't been able to effectively retaliate against. So yeah, the United States has been through this before. They've been through much worse, and they've always been able to rebound and come out stronger. I want to finish this by saying that I was never a fan of Ronald Reagan, not as a child, not as an adult. Even though his foreign policy worked, his domestic policy set us back generations. I am the Geo Husar. You should never allow yourself to be fooled easily by not knowing enough history. Thanks for watching.